take a look at the biggest news story in America right now, and it basically is this storm that's working its way across the USA and kind of just now coming together. My name is Bud Ford, and I'm actually a meteorologist, which is a side job to what I really do. So it's a lot of fun. I used to do television meteorology. I work with a company called MCWX in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we cover weather there. So as I'm looking over some things for the weather, I thought, as I looked at the number of people, some 180 million people are going to be impacted by this system. I thought, you can't find anything more topical than what's going on with this winter storm. So it's not a small storm. This thing in scale is incredibly big. The affected zone's going to move from New Mexico and Texas all the way to New England. Now, here's the other thing. It's a triple threat storm because we're going to pick up heavy snow. We're also going to look at damaging ice. And behind that, we're going to look at multiple days of really, really cold air. So the impacts potentially grow exponentially when you get out of we had ice today, we have no power tonight, we don't have a secondary heating source. So we're in a 24-hour clock, some people a little more, but you're running out of time to find a secondary heating source. Think about this. And you may live in an area where this is not a problem, but in a lot of places, when ice starts to fall, tree limbs break, power lines go down. So it's not just slippery roads when it begins and then it's over 12 hours later. This is multiple days and days and days. So prolonged travel problems. We're talking airline delays. So if you have a scheduled flight somewhere in the next few days, you need to start paying attention because there's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of people sitting in airports over the next several days. Now, the great news is we're going to make new friends. The not so great news is we're going to make new friends and we're going to be in this relationship for a minute because we're going to spend a couple of days there together. So if you have travel plans, through the gut of the country, there's a very good opportunity, and up to the Northeast, that you're going to experience impacts and delays from, maybe in the form of delays, and anything could happen, but a lot of flights will be canceled during this run. A lot of routes are going to be canceled for a lot of things. If you're expecting something to come in the mail, likely going to be impacted. I almost said infected. I don't know that it's going to be infected. It might be. I'd definitely check it. I don't know. I hope it ain't infected. That's awful. So I'm looking at some of the areas, power lines coming down, multi-day power outages like I talked about, and snow expected to pile up across the southern plains, the Ohio Valley, the I-95 corridor when you get into the nation's northeast, one of the busiest travel zones in the country. Again, major East Coast airports are expecting widespread delays and cancellations, especially Sunday into Monday. So it's a lot of business travel happening on Monday. If you have something that you can push back, maybe you have a business flight out on Monday or even Tuesday, be safe, push it to next week. That could be real good for you because things are going to get haywire. All the news is going to talk about over the next couple of days is delays, power outages. The video will be incredible because with all the phones and everything else, it's easy to generate video in that type of, with that, because snow's beautiful to video anyway. So snow, the places that are north, so the freeze line kind of runs right around, let's say, Tulsa, and points that kind of go like this. Because what's going to happen is there is a Arctic blast coming from the north, a system that's going to create from the south and west a moisture opportunity. We're also going to get some help with Gulf moisture as it moves along, and it's going to kind of sit. It's a multiple day event. So what that's going to do is just sit and drop snow in places, and lots of it. In places that rarely get snow, 4 inches is a big deal in your Tulsa, Oklahomas, and those type of places. Now, they're expecting in Tulsa a foot in some places. Now, most places are expecting that 8 inches to a foot. So let's say everything gets blown and the forecast just doesn't play out. Even if you're in 4 to 6 inches, well, that's crippling for cities like Tulsa. It's not as big a deal when you get into St. Louis, because remember, when you head towards St. Louis, it's getting colder. We're going further north. And so when you get up there, you're more likely to wind up with snow. The places it's going to impact are going to be areas south of I-40 that lay in there as it continues to track on to the north and east, because those places are going to deal with ice. And that ice, like I said, breaks the power line, the tree limbs, the power lines go down. And here's the problem with that. It's days and days and days before anyone can get that fixed. We're looking at most of these areas not getting back to temperatures above freezing for some places several days, and a lot of places way more days than they want to be. So that's kind of been occupying my time. That's what I do for a living. So I'm looking at all the cities that'll be impacted, and I'll give you a quick timeline on it too. Friday night, if you're in, and I'm going to read some of these, I got notes. Friday night, the South and Lower Mississippi Valley. So as that system pushes into, let's say, Tennessee, North Alabama, more of Texas, and when you get on into, so during the day, if you are in Tulsa on Friday, you're going to notice that cold temperature really spilling in. The moisture is also in the process of connecting, and when those two get together, probably late in the afternoon, maybe in the morning for some areas around Tulsa, but points to the south and east will be rain, and then that cold air, those two will collide. And when they do, that's going to set up a freeze line, if you will, where all that Arctic air has come in, and that's going to stretch way on to the east. So when we get into Friday night, there's a lot more snow with it, and the ice begins to go away because it's replaced by those colder temperatures. But the moisture machine just keeps churning the butter, and typically that's where things would change. The moisture supply will run out. That's not the case here. And the temperatures are extreme. I mean, it will eventually rise, but the temperatures are extremely cold to boot. So it's going to be an interesting trek as it continues on into late Friday night. Let's talk about cities that are going to struggle with that. Dallas, Austin, Oklahoma City. Talked about the Tulsa area, Memphis, Nashville, Little Rock, Shreveport. That's Friday night when the impacts start to be felt and move through your area. Then you get on into Saturday, the expansion phase. Now we're all the way into Louisiana, Mississippi, Kentucky, West Virginia, and the Carolinas. The Carolinas are going to sit where they always sit, right along that freeze line where you may be in the upstate and it may be snow. You may be down towards the coast and it's a mix. So mix, no good. I like the word cake in front of mix, but I don't like the word wintry in front of mix. That's never a good scenario. By Saturday night, we've moved on to, so Saturday we'll move into Charlotte, Raleigh, Richmond, Knoxville, Asheville, Roanoke. Okay, then we'll get into Saturday night, and we're going to pick up some larger cities, D.C., Baltimore, Philly, on into New York City, parts of the Great Lakes, Chicago, Indianapolis. The ice threat remains strong still across the South and the Southeast. So multiple hours, maybe even a day and a half in some places of snow/wintry mix with ice falling can create some disastrous conditions, as we know. Into Sunday and Monday, you're looking at the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, New England, Boston, New York City, Philly, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Snow, still very windy into Monday. So that's the other thing. As this thing approaches, the winds will kick up and be very strong in your area. Ice threat for a large portion of it is through Texas, Mississippi, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Further north than that, they're going to get a little more snow out of it. The I-95 corridor, obviously one of the nation's big travel spots, that's going to end up dealing with some snow, and that'll be into Monday. So now the traffic you expect to increase, which creates dangerous driving. There's a lot of things that are going to change the next couple of days, so we got to expect to have multiple days of things not being quite right. And it'll depend on how bad it impacts your area, right? But multiple days will be the kind of the calling card if you're in the nation's midsection. Now, if you're sitting up in Seattle, this is not a big deal to you. And if you're down in the southern tip of Florida, it's going to be cold. Even in Phoenix and into those areas, Scottsdale and the surrounding, they're only looking at temperatures in the 50s with rain, which is very uncommon for them. And with those winds, it's going to be pretty chilly by Phoenix accounts. So when it goes east, it'll just get worse, a lot worse. So what we expect is power outages, schools likely closed, your business where you go to work likely going to be closed for the next several days. Obviously, it'll depend on where you're located, but it's kind of one of these things that the entire nation is going to be contending with. There'll be great stories come out of it. There'll be some interesting news coverage. And speaking of, and I wasn't even about to talk about this, but last night I was looking for some coverage and I was watching the ABC News World Report just because I was like, boom, let me check ABC News. I just turned on the TV and it was on ABC News because there was a football game on it the last time I had it on. So I turned it on and they were doing the nightly news, which used to be watchable, but all of a sudden it's become this sort of, it's more like watching Entertainment Tonight, but a really negative version. The whole thing is coming up in a minute. We're going to show you what happens to blah, blah, blah. And it's all sad. Like it is all a problem till you get to the very end. And then it's written like This Is Us for about 3 minutes. And then you get out and we're supposed to have a tear. And then they say goodnight. It's an interesting approach to news. I didn't realize that was happening. I don't know how long it's been going on because I haven't been paying attention. But it shocked me and I had to watch it because it didn't seem like something that was real. It seemed sort of overplayed, like it was part of a drama or part of an experiment. It was weird in an uncomfortable way, but I'm sure there's a lot of people will love that drama and that whole everything is a crisis. I don't know that I like that. I like when you just tell me the news, but again, that's why they make ice cream in 31 flavors. But as I watched it last night, my girl and I were like, yeah, this is not watchable. So I don't know what they're trying to do or who their target demo is either. And that's another thing that happens in television. Sometimes they change the target demo. So they are, let's say they have enough, I'm making this up, but they have enough 35 to 54-year-old people. Now we want to focus on getting 28 to 35-year-old people. So to do that, our team has determined whatever. And that may be the case here. They may already have enough of the numbers they need for sellability in those demographics. And the process may be, let's lower the age in it. And then we won't probably lose the upper end. We can keep them longer, even if they're not satisfied. So that may be the play. But whatever it was an interesting attempt at the whole thing. Another thing that I do is I work along the airline industry and I train folks to fly planes and such. And so we were talking about salaries and those kind of things. And that got me onto, okay, what do other people make? So in South Carolina, an anesthesiologist, got a dude here that's reporting making $650,000. That's a lot of money. That's a tough job, though. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that's a lot of money. And I'm from South Carolina, so let me tell you, $650K in South Carolina can go a long way if you move to Allendale. That's all I'm saying. Get to Andrews, Georgetown, put $650K a year in the bank, you're going to live right large. You get into Charleston, Myrtle Beach, you could probably still live real good on that money, but in Charleston, you may need a little more than that to live like you would in Allendale. You could buy most of Allendale on a salary of $650K a year. ER doctors in Ohio, $700K a year gross. Now, you expect that, though, right? Because they have all of those student loans, all the heavy taxes, and, they're carrying insurance and all that. Basically, everything around that big paycheck is built around exhaustion, right? The whole process. So you expect them to make that kind of money. If you want to make those kind of numbers, much like pilots, because they're going to live up there in those numbers too, Basically, you want someone to trust you with their life, their company, or their money. That's pretty much it. That's the people who make those kinds of dollars. Now, I was looking at some sales jobs. I saw this one dude in Texas said he was a rare disease sales director, and I don't know what that means. It sounded interesting, maybe. I don't know how you even go to school. I mean, you can't ask a guidance counselor, listen, I'd like to sell rare diseases. Where'd I sign up for that? That's not going to work. I mean, it might work in some schools, but it ain't going to work at Mississippi State. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not going to have that conversation over at Arkansas State because they're going to look at me like a dog looks at a TV. But this dude's making $265K on a base with $500K. He should, with his bonus, he should be around $500K. Dude, that's a lot of cheese. Software sales leader, $500,000 in Florida. Listen, I've lived in Florida. I think you need that to put up with the hassle that place is. I say that, respectfully, but that's a lot of cheese too. Security engineer over in North Carolina is making $206,000. That's a lot of money in the state of North Carolina, even in Raleigh, Charlotte. That goes a long way annually. You should be living pretty good. Software engineers, Washington, Virginia, Idaho, making 107 to 210. That's a lot too. Now, what's interesting about that is look at the difference. Some people live on guaranteed money. That's those doctors we talked about and the anesthesiologist, the ER doctor. And then some people are more like, I'm on performance money. That's those salespeople we talked about, the engineers, the software engineers, those cats. So that's two different ways to live life. And I tell you one thing, because I've lived on both sides, and you probably have too, it changes the way you sleep at night, doesn't it? If somebody else has got a check for you, you sleep better than when you got to figure out each day you're at zero and you got to figure out how to come up with the money. I don't know. I was looking at some of the trade and union jobs. Iron workers making $210 total with all things in Chicago. It's a lot of money, but again, to live in Chicago, that's a lot. $5 an hour when you count benefits. Good Lord, that's a lot of money. It is expensive, though, to live in Chicago, but ain't that expensive. I can make it. Give me a run at that. Propane technician in the Midwest, $110K a year. That's a lot of money to be shoveling propane. That's all I'm telling you. That's a lot. Home every night, got weekends off. I didn't realize $110K ain't going to make him rich. It can if he puts the money back right, and it probably ain't that expensive where he lives. But still, 110 G's to peddle propane. Not a bad living. Electrical contractor owners, they're saying in Connecticut, they're pulling down $225 to $350K. That's one of those deals where you become really big in a small town. You can make a lot of money. I grew up in a small town, and the plumbers, the septic service people, those cats made real money. Everybody knew to go to them. It wasn't, the market wasn't as busy, as crowded as it is now. But still, in those areas, somebody's going to recommend you to the right people, probably. And those cats have been making a lot of money for a long time. Let's see. Public service jobs that I was looking at, so they're super stable-ish. City assessor in Michigan making $132 a year. State IT admin in Oklahoma making $116. Security guard $80 to $100. And I thought, what? And it said in New York City. I buy that, but you're not pulling that off in where I'm at. For most people, I mean, that's not paying anywhere near that money. A hospital janitor in Vegas is $55K a year. Administrative assistant take home in Ohio is $27K a year. That's consistency, though. That's a paycheck. That's the same schedule. That's year after year in my hometown, my city. I can raise my children here, and I kind of have control of my schedule and my life. That's kind of a cool feeling because I've worked on both sides of that. And it's rare that I get the kind of control. I was looking at an eighth grade teacher in Fresno says they're at 108 to 120. That's a lot. I had a teacher in my office the other day that said he won't break 50. It's time to leave. He's talking about flying airplanes, and I can't blame him. Physical therapist, a buck 66. They're going to be in debt pretty thick though. Physician's assistant, they're going to make a buck 79 in the upstate in New York. That's pretty good money, but they're also going to be in debt a long time in college too. That's a hard road up that hill. And I saw where a radio DJ makes, he said he's 60 years old. He makes $15.79 an hour in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tell you that tracks. I know, it tracks. So maybe when you factor in all of the cost of living in California versus New York or Tulsa versus Alabama or any of those places, maybe the question is really not about the salary. It's not going to buy the lifestyle. The location will determine that, right? Because $100,000 in Seattle, you're going to struggle to get by and probably have at least one, maybe two part-time jobs. $100,000 in Tulsa, you're going to be fine. So it really, the lifestyle is determined by your location. So I don't know if you're chasing the money or if you're chasing the location and then finding the money. I guess that's something you got to make the decision on that. I never really thought of it that way. But when you do, the light bulb goes off and you're like, dang. That's it. So it really is more about where I'm at as to what how much I'm valued, right? That's interesting to me when you put it all in those terms. I was looking at an IT worker who started in cardiac rehab, software engineers who started at $13 an hour. I got a lot of folks that I'm talking to now that are career switching, looking at the opportunities that piloting's offering. Some of them were converting to college grads and getting them into flying. So there's a lot of really good things happening out there, and there's programs out there that I didn't even know existed. So the more I learn about these programs and such, to me, it's amazing how many opportunities are out there if we just start looking for them. One final thought for today. I got to get back to studying weather for a minute. But one final thought for today is last night I went over to B-Dubs, Buffalo Wild Wings, because I wanted to check out. We have a Hooters, but the Hooters is on the other side of town, and I just wanted some chicken wings. So I said, okay, well, I'll go over to B-Dubs. Got there. They had this special. They got a special going. You may be aware of it, you may not, but it was 2 for $19.99, and you can upgrade if you want to add some other things. You could get bigger dishes, and you add $5. When we did everything, we were at $31.99 or something, 32, something like that. So, and plenty of food, and we had a dessert. So there was a lot there. Now, B-Dubs is always an interesting game. You never know what you're going to get. I rarely go. I'm about once every 5 to 7 years because my experiences are not terribly good there. So if I don't go often, I figure that they're probably not going to screw it up. Was I wrong? Sure. Ordered the chicken wings because I figured Buffalo Wild Wings. I didn't want to throw no curveballs and throw like a hamburger on there because they don't have that on the sign. That they don't even say that. So I don't want to throw the kitchen off and them go, hamburgers? No, we do chicken here. I don't want anybody trying to figure things out. So I said, I'll take a 10-pack of them, regular chicken wings, and I want the buffalo sauce, make it hot. Yeah, okay. So my girl said she wanted a hamburger, and I was like, come on, baby, you know this is going to make nothing but a mess up in here. Sure enough, she gets the hamburger. She orders the hamburger. Like 3 minutes later, the lady comes back over and she's like, listen, the grill has stopped. The grill's done. I don't know that we're going to be able to get this hamburger. Is there something else that we can get for you? And she said, what about a salad? Okay, what do you want on the salad? So we got to go through all that, right? So she goes through the whole process of the salad. That's going to take 5 minutes or so, right? It seems like probably more like a minute. So they get it done. She goes back in the kitchen, comes back about 3 minutes later. On, we figured the grill out. Okay, maybe it's a new grill. But what they didn't say was while we were waiting and not cooking her burger, we went ahead and cooked your chicken wings and put them in the refrigerator so that way nothing would happen and while you waited. The chicken was absolutely cold, like it hadn't been heated in probably 10 to 12 minutes. So I said that to the lady. I said, you can see the color's wrong now. It's, that color that chicken gets when it's been sitting, it's overcooked to start with, and it's just sitting. Yeah, it's that dry, weird color. I'm like, see, it's been sitting for a long time. This is why I don't go often. Don't hate on me. I tried. I did the best I could. But the price was fantastic. I got to give them that. Place looked good too. So they have a lot of TVs. That's a win. All right, back to weather. Thanks for your time today. I'm Bud Ford. You can find my stuff at Bud Ford Comedy.